Yes, guys, you know what time it is. It's your boy Jack here at the Irish Hotspur, and this is my short take on Bryan Hill's future with Tottenham Hotspur since he is leaving to Valencia on a season-long loan with no buy clause, no mandatory buy clause, no option to buy. But I do have some speculations. I do have some theories as to maybe Bryan Hill's future. Kind of the reason I want to talk about this, everyone, is because I think Spurs will still, see a future and they still have a sort of plan, for Bryan Hill. And after seeing players like William Saliba over at Arsenal come good after years on loan and years of speculation whether he was good enough for Arsenal, with him playing so well, sort of makes me think then that maybe we should stay patient, as fans, hopefully the football club as well when it comes to Hill Messi's development. But before I get into it, everybody, make sure to smash that like button. And as well, make sure to let me know in the comments where you think Bryan Hill's future is headed with Spurs, because I know I am a big apologist for him. I am a big lover of Bryan Hill Messi, but do let me know your honest opinion as to where he is headed, everybody. These are kind of my short kind of thoughts on it, kind of my thinking as to maybe what his future is going to be like for Spurs. And it sort of starts, with that omission of the buy clause, because the omission of the buy clause suggests that Spurs are probably still going to be patient, with Hill. They don't really want to consider any sort of, option, for a transfer. I think even they, kind of passed or, denied any sort of options, for transfers or permanent moves away. So it does show that maybe similar, to the likes of a William Saliba, that Spurs are going to be patient when it comes to Bryan Hill. Bryan Hill was never really a Conte player. He was kind of in the unfortunate scenario of, seeing, that his, previous manager of Nuno getting sacked for a much better manager in Conte, but him not really being, immediately an obvious Conte like player or an obvious Conte fit sort of player, probably put him at a disadvantage. And then this does tell me, though, that, if he were, somebody that Conte just didn't see, fit for, somebody that, maybe Conte didn't really have any plan for, why would, they keep him around? It then means that, Conte, sees how young Bryan Hill is. He sees, the potential in him and is probably willing to give him, patience as well as more time, to come back, into the Premier League and perhaps, be able to prove him wrong or even, prove that there is a spot for him. But there's really another reason I think we should be patient, when it comes to Bryan Hill. And it has to do with that William Saliba example that I'm coming up with. And, when you look at William Saliba, he did go to Arsenal, but similar to Bryan Hill, he was actually loaned back, to the league that they actually originally bought him from. He went back to St. Etienne. He went to OGC Nice. Then he went to Marseille. And so he went on three separate loan spells back to the league that he originally came from. And Bryan Hill, sort of similar story here. We got him, from the likes of, Sevilla, but he had that loan spell at Ibar from Sevilla. Then he comes to Spurs, plays a few games, looks decent, but Conte comes in. We send him back to Valencia. Now we're sending him back to Valencia again. Could be a similar story there. And with how good William Saliba has come out to be, for the likes of Arsenal and, the sort of, skill range that he had. And let's be honest, like, it wasn't a surprise he'd be good there. He was actually the best center back in Ligue 1, or at least voted one of the best center backs in Ligue 1 last season. And so you could see Bryan Hill having a similar development in La Liga once he gets a bit more confidence, is able to fine tune more elements of his game. Perhaps, turns out to be one of the better wingers maybe in a season or two in La Liga, then comes into the Premier League. Other really good, kind of quick, short examples would be the likes of Kevin De Bruyne. Kevin De Bruyne over at Chelsea, he went back, to the Bundesliga. I know he originally came from the Jupiler League, in Belgium, but he went to the Bundesliga. Werder Bremen, went over to Wolfsburg, had a great time at Wolfsburg, then came back to the Premier League and tore it apart. So you can even see some of the best players of all time, in the Premier League, at least of the last 10 years, in the case of De Bruyne, coming back to the Premier League, to do well. Good example of it then would be Sancho. Sancho had to leave the Premier League to come back to the Premier League, and thrive there. Mo Salah, another good example, and another good Chelsea example, you could say, had to leave the Premier League to then come back and then, become one of the best players in the Premier League and one of the most feared players in the Premier League. He went to Fiorentina, went to Roma, then, learned his craft out in the Serie A, came back and, it became a revelation. So this loan move doesn't really mean the end of the player for me, especially when they're still so young, for me, like Brian Hill. So that is a reason I think you guys should still be further patient. Another reason is just sort of, Brian Hill's sort of work rate, his fitness. I think that does come into consideration. If you ever watch Brian Hill for Spurs, he is an intense and relentless presser, despite, his size and sort of his frailness. This sort of enthusiasm and work rate, I think off the ball, Conte will obviously respect. His fitness was obviously, and it was impressive, you could say. Sorry, it was impressive, in those Marine runs that he was doing. He's, running alongside Sanchez, Emerson, Papa Montasar, Troy Parrott, all big, tall, long legged guys, that probably would beat most players, considering their advantage and being, fit above, before everybody else, but also, just being kind of, good guys built for those long distance kind of running, in Troy Parrott's case being tall, Davinson Sanchez being tall, and Hill Messi was keeping up with them, which sort of, that work rate, that fitness shows that, he's working hard to try to be fit for Conte. And I think Conte will like that. I think he will take that, as a good sign that there is maybe a player in there. And then another thing as well is that he was beefing up, according to, some Instagram posts and, even according to his own words, he said that he had to, gain a lot of weight since he's come to the Premier League. He's admitted that, it's much more physical and that he needs to bulk up to be, probably a bit more, comfortable in it. He's admitted, his own, kind of weaknesses. He's self-aware, of his own weaknesses. And that's a really good sign, for such a young player like him, is that even if he's aware, that maybe he's not exactly physically built yet for the Premier League, that he's, not totally ignorant towards it. And he has been working heavily to try to combat against that. He's, even said he's gained something like, some kind of, decent weight, since actually coming to the Premier League. And so hopefully he keeps working on that. Kind of last little points, here is that he is positionally versatile. I did speak about Lucas being, positionally versatile, something I just think, Conte really does value. And again, a reason why Spurs will probably keep him around is because he can play a different, few different positions, and that could come in handy for someone like Conte who likes to switch things up, kind of at a moment's notice. I will, be a bit concerned about his destination of Valencia. I wouldn't be as concerned if he had gone to like Sociedad, Real Betis, Sevilla, but him joining Valencia with Gennaro Gattuso, not really a favorite manager of mine. I don't think he's really tactically that great. He's also, not really known for really, being probably a good influence, I think, on someone like him. I just don't really like him as a person, Gattuso. And as well, he hasn't exactly been the most successful. And he's also joining a club like Valencia, Gattuso, that really are probably pretty poorly run and are kind of a chaos sort of club in moments. So I feel like I wish he had gone to someone like Real Betis, Sociedad, Sevilla, teams that have done quite well recently, especially Real Betis, where you can maybe be, in some European football and maybe got a lot of minutes, but can't get everything you want. But everybody, do be patient about this Brian Hill situation. I do ask you to, because I think there is maybe more to come from him. These are my thoughts on Hill Messi and his future with Tottenham. I think the main message here simply is just to be patient. He is still young. And there are examples of other younger players that had to go out on loan in order to come back to be revelations in the Premier League. And he could be one of those examples, at least in my eyes. But as well, let me know what you think of Brian Hill's future in those comments below. And also let me know what you think of his future when it comes to the squad, whether you think Conte has faith in him. Maybe I'm just totally full of it, and you think this is ridiculous. Let me know in those comments below, people. And also do smash that like button on your way out. Feel free as well to give a super thanks if you feel like supporting the channel as well. It's a great way to get, your comment highlighted, to get your thoughts highlighted in the chat so people can see what you have to say in those comments. But everybody, as always, in Conte we trust. Come on, you Spurs, and I will be seeing you.